says it's preparing to live stream the meeting. Setting up my meeting for YouTube Live. Done. Says it's preparing to live. Okay, good. We've got it. Okay, it should be live streaming now. Is that good? Okay, I'm going to share my desktop. Okay, and we're going to close out the Tea and Turtle Stitch. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Welcome to Tea and Turtle Stitch 2. And this week we have, we're really lucky to have a really wonderful guest, the marvelous Margaret Lowe, who's going to share something about emerging patterns. And what you can do is open up Turtle Stitch and sign in. I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay, so our usual question is, did you do anything with Turtle Stitch this week that you would like to share? Anybody? No. Okay, cool.
Well, did you do something that you wouldn't like to share but would share anyway?
That's great, Cynthia.
And
yeah, I'll share. I again, I'm practicing with the working the machine, and so I went ahead and looked at the. Maybe I'll unblur my played around with the. I don't know if you can see this turtle petals and the frames.
Oh yeah.
So sorry, the light is. So I made I don't know if that's better. I did a flower frame, which is pretty much the one that was shared in the notes. And then I did a flower in the middle, and I put our center aims on the bottom. So
did you have trouble picking out thread that you liked, and did it come out the way you liked it?
It did.
You know, one of the things I have problems with. Susan is a master at matching fabric color and thread color. And Cynthia, it looks better separately, and then when I put them together, I get disappointed.
Well, right now we're we just have, I think we just have regular sewing thread. I don't know that it's embroidery thread, so it's a little thin, but we've ordered some variegated embroidery thread, so I'm very excited to get that in. But I did, the most exciting part for that was I did the design in the middle. It's a separate program, so I stitched that first, and then I was playing around with the frame, and so I made the code for the frame, and then I put it back in, and I wasn't sure if it would be centered, I wasn't sure if it would go over, but it did actually go around, so that was very exciting. So
truly, congratulations. I have tried it, and it gets lopsided. It isn't. Maybe Margaret will be able to give me some tips on how to do it, but I'm glad it worked for you. That's great. Okay. Susan, you want to proceed?
I think we should just proceed with Margaret. So welcome, Margaret.
We're very, very lucky to have Margaret Lowe come and talk with us. And Margaret is a professor in England, folks, at Warwick University. And she's wonderful. And also, she has a group that is working on Turtle Stitch. and working with schools in different areas of England. Is that right? Of Great Britain. And they have posted a lot of material online that you can look at if you go to the front page of TurtleStitch. You will see, and then Margaret is going to give us some pointers directly to it. And it's just such a pleasure to have her here. Thank you, Margaret. It's all yours.
Thank you. I'm blushing. It's lovely to be here, and it's great that Cynthia and Susan are doing Tea and TurtleStitch again, because I think it grew the community the first time you did it, and I'm sure you're growing the community this time you're doing it. So just to sort of share some of my work, I teach at the University of Warwick. I'm a computer scientist in an engineering department, and I do my best. But I also coordinate outreach, and as Cynthia said, I work with local schools. So I'm just going to share my screen because I just want to sort of set what we're doing in context. Is that working? No, not quite yet. Hang on. I need to hide presenter view. Right. Hopefully you can all see my screen.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we're going to look at some of the patterns and things I did. I actually did it during lockdown. Normally when we write software, we have a very specific function we want it to do. I started doodling really in TurtleStitch, just exploring simple algorithms and the kind of patterns you could create. The patterns, individual patterns that I did create are very simple algorithms, but by the time you twist and turn them and position them somewhere else, it starts getting a little bit complicated. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at specific examples. And I call this emerging patterns because I was just interested in where I could get with these simple line programs. So a lot of my programs, like here, the lines and bows patterns, are all made up from these sort of individual lines that then are sort of rotated through various degrees to create the patterns. So we'll go and do that today. Now I'm going through my slides a little bit quickly because what we're going to do is a follow me. So this is just giving you the overview of where we're hoping to go today. And I hope that you'll follow along and try out some of these along with us. So these patterns are all based on lines. So if you want to create a line, I want to end up in the same places where I started. So I move 100, move minus 100, and I end up back to where I am. Now, running stitch 10 steps in TurtleStitch world is a 2 millimeter stitch in the physical world. So if I have running stitch 20 steps, that would be 4 millimeters. So it's useful to try and sort of remember that because that helps you orientate from the sort of virtual world into the physical world. So this is what we're going to be doing. We'll create a line and we'll make a function with it. And then we'll use that to create our patterns. The next stitch we're going to look at is the tatami. And we're going to look at the tatami. Now, tatami, it is a bit of a confusion what the parameters are, but tatami is a sort of wide path stitch. So if your turtle is moving from left to right, it creates a path following the direction of the turtle. So the width of that path here is 100 units, which is 20 millimeters, 2 centimeters. The stitches that fill up the tatami stitch that shuttle from left to right, that's the second parameter. So that filling stitch is 40 units. And the final parameter we're going to test, and we'll do this live so you can see it, is whether this tatami stitch is centered around the path of the turtle or whether it's set to the right of the path of the turtle. The tatami stitch is a bit complicated to get your head around, and it's easier to explore it than it is to actually try and get to grips, maybe sometimes with somebody else explaining it. What we'll do with the tatami stitch is we'll look at what patterns we can create. So I'll show you a bit of how to create the bare bones of this pattern here, which is one of the sort of well-known optical illusions. And finally, the other thing that I've done with tatami stitch is create 2-block patterns. So this is all made from a sort of horizontal block and a vertical block that's just repeated. So that's the sort of roots of my programs. All our turtle stitch resources are on the Warwick website free of charge. We don't charge. We do teacher CPD, and the next teacher session I think is coming up on the 30th or the 31st of January. If anybody would like to attend, it's on there's a booking link on the Warwick Turtle Stitch pages. So that's kind of enough of that probably. So if I exit that, let's go and we'll do a follow me. Has anybody got any questions before I start? No. Okay. Do please, if you want to ask a question, feel free to interrupt me. Or if you think I'm going too fast, let me know and I'll slow down. So let's look at creating the line. I'm going to start by moving 100 steps. And then I want to go back minus 100 steps. I'm going to use running stitch. And if you remember, that 10 steps is 2mm stitches. So if I click on this, first mistake, minus 100. I need a reset block as well. So, and I'm going to make lots of mistakes. So you guys are going to have to debug some of this with me. So you can see the turtle moves forward and ends up where it is again. And this is the fundamental basis of my pattern. So if you'd like to try doing this, what I'm going to do is make a block and then I'll pause and give you a chance to catch up with this. So I'm calling it A line. I'm going to move this in here. I've created a blue block. I don't want my stitches in there. I might want to select a different stitch. I don't want to always run 100 steps, so I'm going to create a parameter called distance. And that's what I'm going to move. So I'm either going to move forward distance steps or backwards. Now, the way to get minus distance is to use an operator. And if I put distance in there and 0 in there, that will create it. And that's my function A line. Okay, so if I create that 100 and run it. Okay, so I'm just going to pause now and I'm going to hopefully you guys are going to be creating your own A-line function. So I'll wait till I hear from people to see if you've done that. Is that a good time to pause? Oh, I can see people now, so I can see people's faces. Everybody's head is working. That's a relief.
Okay.
During lockdown, one of the worst things was if nobody had their camera on, you were talking to blank screens, teaching blank screens.
That's what was happening with me too.
Yeah.
I was teaching high school and it was blank screens. It was so depressing.
Yes, some of my colleagues had all their teddy bears and things behind the screen so that at least they were talking to something.
Okay, it looks like I'm not getting any messages back for people needing more time. So I think we're good. Before you move on, I wanted to point out to the teachers, I really like Margaret's use of GIFs or GIFs, whatever you call them, to show what happens when you're stitching. I really appreciate that, and I think it's a good technique. I haven't used it enough.
Mhm. Yeah, it helps people see the code. Okay, so I'm going to iconize this and I'm going to move on. So what we're going to do now, hopefully you've got your function that creates a line. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in a little bit of a turn. So, and then I'm going to repeat it. So I'm drawing my line and I'm going to turn 10 degrees. And then I'm going to repeat that because I'm going to create a little fan pattern. So I'm going to pop that in there. And I'm repeating it 9 times because it's 9 times 10, which is 90 degrees. So plug that in. And I get a little fan pattern, which is quite sweet. Yeah. If I click on this, now one of the things I do is I use the development environment to explore because I don't always know what my patterns are going to be. So if I just remove that repeat off of there and click another 3 times, I'll have drawn a circle, right? So the lines are going all the way around. Now, hopefully you can see here there's a density warning. Now, these are frustrating. This is the system saying you've gone back and forward into the same hole repeatedly, and you've created quite a dense stitch in there. So you may create a hole in the fabric, or your machine may not stitch it. So the density warning is more of a guide rather than a hard, you've definitely got a problem here. Depending on which machines I stitch on, if I stitch on one of our smaller machines, they tend to not create holes in the fabric quite so much. But it depends on the fabric you're using. So this is something you're going to have to explore and experiment with. I found slightly thick felt to be excellent. You don't get so many holes there. Some of our big, more powerful machines bash through and create holes in some of these patterns. So the density warning is something that you have to explore and experiment with a bit, because a lot of the time it will stitch without any problem. So I'm going to go back to this. Now I want a nice quadrant shape coming up for what my pattern. So I'm going to go back and put in a final move 100. So that's going to just finish my pattern there. So I've drawn 10 lines, 10 degrees apart, and that's my bow pattern there. So I'm just checking my notes where I'm going. I want to create a bow pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn 90 degrees. I'm going to turn 90 degrees, and then I'm going to repeat this pattern again, 90 degrees different without that turn. So if I do this, you can see I'm getting the bow pattern. Now, I know from previous experience that my machine will stitch this without a problem on slightly thicker felt. Elaine shared a theory earlier. Thank you, Susan, for sharing it as well, that if you set your machine to be a little bit slower, it's less likely to create a hole. So that was a great tip, and is maybe why I realised the smaller machines are better at stitching these patterns than the bigger machines are. Okay, so that's my bow pattern. I can do other things with this. Now I've got the basic bow pattern, I can move and create that pattern elsewhere. So one of the things I quite like exploring is if I move this, now do I move 100? So I'm going to reset, click this once to see what happens. It's moved 100 steps. I'm going to do it again. And if I do this 4 times, I end up with quite a nice pattern. And this is one of the reasons I called this emerging patterns, was because do you see the little star shaped in the middle there? It just sort of emerges out of the lines that have been crisscrossing each other. And this is just what I was wanting to investigate. Now I can see what 4 repeats looks like. I can build that into my program. So I can now put the 4 in there, but I'm very much using the development environment to help me explore different patterns. Instead of just a move, I could put a move and a turn in there. So if I put a turn as well, I'm going to turn maybe 90. Let me see what this does. I have no idea what this does. Ooh. So that's another interesting pattern that we've just explored. So I'm going to stop there and give you a chance now to explore your own patterns using that basic technique. Okay. I'm going to pop on the grid again so I can see people. I'm trying to just do bite-sized bits and not get carried away with the patterns, but I've got a bad habit of running too fast.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And if anybody, I mean, I've created certain things, but if anybody wishes to share their design, please, please do. It would be lovely. I'll stop sharing for a minute. Or is it helpful for people to see my screens? Yeah, okay. I'll leave it on there. Just see what the chat is saying. Oh, Leslie, you're having a problem. My A-line block is grey, not working. Do you want to share your screen so we can see it? Or post the code that's in it so we can see what the problem is? If you don't select a block type, what might have happened is it would make it another command, but it should still work.
Tried sharing, but it says I can't share because someone else is sharing.
I'm stopping sharing. Go for it.
Go. And too many windows open here. Okay.
It's okay. We're all the same group.
This is what's happening and this is what I'm getting, but it looks like I have all my parameters correct.
Can you edit your A-line block? Let me just see what your A-line block has got. Let's edit it.
I
Yes,
see your bugs.
Can you see this okay?
yes. And what the problem is, you see where your parameter distance is? You want to be moving that distance. So pick up that distance and drop it into your move block. Yeah, that's it. Now it should be... It's the fact it's grey just means that it appears in the other tab. That's not a problem. Hey!
Thank you.
Anybody else want to share what they're doing?
Trying to find how to unshare. I'm not a Zoom aficionado here. I think that was pause share. Can you, am I off? No.
Oh, I'll unshare for you.
Thank you. Oh, I found it. Just
We found it at the same time. All right.
Anybody else want to share what they're creating?
Well, I just wanted to say that for density warnings, I often stick in an extra little move. And that takes care of the density warning, and it doesn't, if it's a small enough move, it doesn't destroy the image.
So in the chat, Cynthia, I actually put the
So
one of the patterns with a move one step.
Yeah, I just did it with this. The problem with it is, let's see.
Share your screen.
I think this is it. The problem is the wonderful thing in the center becomes a different image.
That's part of the emerging pattern, Cynthia. You've emerged, a different pattern has emerged.
Yes, but see, here is where I put a move 1. If I made it a move 0.5, it might be different. The experiment, but it doesn't change. It doesn't alter the basic design.
What happens if you put a move 2?
All right, I'll try it. That's okay. In this design, it's okay.
Yeah.
Try move 5.
Ah, this is what Cynthia and I do all the time. It looks
Well,
pretty much the same.
Well, it's but there's a more of a little line connecting.
Ah, I see.
Like let's make it 10 and you'll see it. See this, but it doesn't, it's still an interesting pattern.
Yes.
And that's part of the joy, is literally different patterns emerge from very small changes.
Put it in the chat for the A-line block. Okay,
I've just done that, Susan, hopefully.
good.
But now this is interesting. Look at these jaggies here.
Ah.
And that's because of the move 10.
Mhm.
Walter has a question.
Good.
Well,
But it's,
Etta wants to share her creation, that's all.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I'm sharing, Walter.
All
You
right.
can share now.
There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Beautiful.
So what did you do? 45.
Wow.
He turned 45 degrees instead of 90 degrees.
And then the other way.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
That is gorgeous.
Actually, I like the little red dots from the density warning. And that too.
Me too.
It's lovely to see. One of the things that's worth keeping an eye on is the size, because we get so caught up in the virtual space that you're zoomed in, you forget it might just be 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters or 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. And it's one of the things we notice when we teach, is that people often struggle to get the real size of it. So it's worth keeping an eye on the size in the bottom right hand corner under the window.
Was that too big? I didn't look at the size.
I didn't see the size.
And how big is it? What's the
It's 6 by 6. It fits, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's centimeters, 6 by 6 centimeters.
Mhm.
Okay. Mm.
The other thing you may need to do if you're not using felt, or even if it's thin felt, is use interfacing. There's another name for it and I can't remember it, but it's interface fabric. So stabilizer. Thank you, Susan. You're an expert on this. You use stabilizer fabric underneath, and that can make a huge difference to dense patterns. Sometimes 2. I've used 2 stabilizing levels.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else want to share their patterns? I love the concentration. I'm completely loving the concentration in people's faces. It's either people are completely lost or they're absolutely working away. And I don't know which it is, folks. You're going to have to share. All of the above. Okay. We've got plenty of time, because that was sort of half of the material I prepared. So it would be really lovely to see what you guys have done with that starting materials.
Well, it's hard to collaborate on Zoom,
Mhm.
because then it would be also interesting to see what teams come up with.
I have something to share.
Woohoo.
I was gonna, I was gonna ask you, Elaine, because I know.
I just saved it. I worked on my Mac over here and I'm on my iPad. So it's like I'm working on two computers at the same time. So anyway, I will share how do I share on this? Oh
Down
boy.
at the bottom, there's a green button. If you hover at the
Green
bottom,
button.
hover at the bottom, and there's a green button that says share screen.
Switch to active speaker. Am I?
No,
oh no,
share.
that's not me. That's not me.
When you're at the Zoom meeting.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I got it. Share my screen. Screen broadcast. Start broadcast. Okay. Screen broadcast.
You have to be on, oh yeah, you got it. Yours is
It-
weird.
It's going in a round circle. Oh, you're sharing your screen, but I don't see what I'm sharing. Okay. Do you see what it says Zoom? I'm like, oh my gosh. Here it is. Okay.
Oh yeah, we've got, oh,
Ooh.
that is really nice.
It looks really pretty.
Wow.
Okay.
And look at the code, it's so simple.
Yes. Yeah, really simple code there. And it was a turn 120 20 degrees. Very pretty. So there's my contribution. I will stop sharing. Let's see. Yes, stop.
And no density warning away at all.
No.
Go back to it, Elaine. I want to see the code again. Or is it saved?
I saved it. Yes.
It went too fast. I couldn't.
Yeah, it was just her A line, and then I put a repeat around that A line with the turn 10 degrees, and then so it was 120 degrees and moved 200 steps. So it moved it away and then produced it.
Your explanation doesn't help, but the code
Okay,
will.
sorry.
Put the code, put the code in the
I saved it in
the
the turn.
screenshot.
Yeah.
Oh,
mhm.
it's really small, but you can probably make it bigger.
Okay.
Anybody else? Margaret, did you have your hand up? Margaret Minsky.
I do. I'm just looking for the share because there's more controls than I'm used to. Where is the share? Is it on the bottom of the screen?
Yeah.
Often.
Mine actually was at the top, so.
Sometimes it's at the top, but it's green.
Oh yeah, I found it. Okay. Now I have to find my turtle stitch.
Oh yeah, that's hard.
It is. Because it's on another desktop. There. Okay. So I was
Oh, how cute.
I guess I can't see it at the same time, but I had really liked the grid, the gridding that you did with it, Margaret, in your on your website. And I'm actually planning to use this with students, college students, on Thursday. So I'm really excited about it. But in this one, I just put what I thought, if you can see it at the end, I do a couple of bows and then I turn a random number of 45-degree angles, and so making a random walk around the screen. I'm not really trying to stay within a certain stitching area, and so it's really enjoyable to just, like, here's the little unit of 2 bows, and then it decides where I'm going to zoom to fit so you can see it on the screen. It just decides where to go, and it's going to be different every time, but kind of gridded, not so much about circular patterns, but like, because it's a random walk, it's a little bit more grid-like, but it's also a little bit walking around on, and I enjoyed doing that just now.
Well,
I'll
it's
stop.
too big for our machines.
Yeah, it gets too big. If you wanted to do that and make it go on a small machine, I guess you could, oh, I have to change all these numbers because I didn't put a variable. I guess you could make these like really short or something, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay. It's nice.
You know. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, thank you.
Beautiful, Margaret. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, how are we doing? Are we ready to move on, or do you want another few minutes? It's
No, I
inspiring
think
to see the
we're
different ways people
I
do.
think it'd be interesting. Margaret Minsky brought up the term grid, and maybe you could show us how you grid things.
I use different techniques to grid. Sometimes, so a lot of the time, I'm just using moves and turns to locate. In fact, I've got a little example of that at the end.
Oh, okay.
Which, so I do a line and then I move and I turn and I do the line again. Very occasionally, where I'm getting a lot of rounding errors, so things aren't joining up, I use coordinates, but I try to avoid the coordinates as much as possible and stay within the sort of turtle world.
Yes. Your other example. Your next examples are gridded, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But what I can do, if I share the screen, I can, oh, we're getting a lot of feedback. Oh, okay. If I share the screen again, I can show you some of the gridded patterns that I think Margaret Minsky is referring to.
Nice.
So let me share the screen. Share. Okay. Hopefully, right. So this is the emerging patterns website I created. I did all these doodles during lockdown, and then I tried to sort of write them up and document them. So I think what Margaret's referring to is this sort of moving things and repeating them in different locations. And a lot of it is just literally moves and turns. So the turtle is pointing at ready at a different location to repeat that block again. So if you ever go to this website and you want to know how things are made, you can go into each section and it sort of shows you what's happening with the pattern. There's usually just one animation of the main pattern, but it gives you an idea how it's constructed. So if you look at the code, you're not just reliant on the code as to how to do things. And I often put parameters on things where I think I might want to explore different distances, different directions, different amounts of repeats. So just by changing some of these parameters, you can see that I get quite different patterns appearing. So this is a denser, more gridded one. So I'm just drawing them slightly closer together.
I like the Pac-Man one.
Yes, yes. The one next to it is my favorite, actually, because it looks like butterflies. I'm very fond of this one. And all I'm doing is I'm changing the amount of repeats I'm doing in the fan. So it was just literally trial and error. But again, you can see there's these patterns emerging. So you can see the squares in this shape that's picking things up, which is what I love. So these are all, there's a whole load of these patterns that are created. This is one of my favorite ones, which is the circles and lines. And I'm just drawing lines from a circle. And then if you go very dense, you get some really interesting patterns. And you can see right in the middle of this, there's like a flower right in the middle embedded when you stitch it. So anyway, I will stop here. Has anybody got anything else they want to share? or shall we move on? What do you guys want to do?
I want to share something because I have a question I want to ask too.
Yeah.
Lost the little share thingy. There it is, right in front of me. I guess I'm rusty from that pandemic, but I don't want it back. Well, here we go.
Ooh.
Oh, cute.
My only question is, I'm not like really understanding what everything does yet. How would I make, can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
How would I make these fill in if I wanted to, these where they're not equidistant as these are?
So if the basic quadrant I shared, if you repeat that quadrant 4 times, it fills the whole, so you get a full circle. Is that what you're trying to create?
This. Okay, so the inner repeats. I just want 4 and everything else is gonna stay the same.
If you try 18, oh no, try 18 there, because you're repeating 20 degrees. Yeah, I think. This is a guess, but Cynthia said the same number, which is a good sign. Ooh, not quite.
Why is it
Not quite. Now it's
Okay, what I would
20 degrees there? 20 degrees.
here.
Make it 10. Yeah, make it 10. Let's see if that works. I don't know. No.
No, 18 times 20 is
Oh,
360.
that's better. What are you saying, Cynthia?
Well, I don't know. It seems to be working your code, so.
But now I don't have my little wreath.
So you think it should be 18 and 20 to turn 20 degrees, Cynthia? Is that what you're saying? I haven't done the mathematics.
Well, 18 times 20 is 360.
Yeah.
Okay. So try making all of them 20 and see what happens.
I think because there's multiple things happening in there, I'd be tempted to pull apart the code.
That's right.
And click on each block at a time so that you can see what the effect is. I think you're drawing multiple lines over multiple times.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Pull everything out of repeat 9.
Okay.
Yeah. And then separate. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Get
Good.
back
You've
there.
got it, Leslie.
Yeah.
Okay,
Excellent.
and just go by piece and
Yeah. Click on reset and running stitch. Yeah.
oh,
Okay.
should that be down with
Now
that?
do this. No, you're
that's
fine.
fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, and now do repeat 18 and see what that does.
That looks good.
Okay.
Are all the other ones doing this?
Well, now continue. Click on A line. And now click on repeat 18 again. The other one, yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Yep, I did. It
So
just
that-
went
Okay, so that's filling in. That's
just went-
filling in the same circle. So
Mhm.
if you want to fill it in, what you could do is repeat 36, turn 10.
Well, actually, I was okay with this.
Then you don't need that one.
What? Don't need what?
The second one, the second
one.
repeat 18. Don't throw it away. Just, oh, all right.
Got it. Okay.
Now, the thing is, you're not moving and you
Right.
want to move.
I want like a wreath of them. I was kind of like, I think this one is on the idea of it, unless I tinkered with, nope, I tinkered with it too much.
I think I put a move and a turn in there
You do. Okay.
after each. So you've got your repeat 18, then I'd put move and turn at the bottom of that first block, just a move 10 or move 20, turn 10 or something like that.
Oops,
Oops. Oh,
running out of room.
Well, it's not, repeat 9 has nothing in it, so won't do anything. You don't have to worry yet. Oh, you don't have to throw it away either. You probably, oh, well.
If you put a
okay,
turn,
move and then another turn.
Yep.
And you said turn how many degrees?
do
20, 15?
15's fine. And now put a repeat loop round the whole of that section.
Well, why don't you,
Or just click on it.
click on reset and running stitch.
Yeah.
And then click on repeat 18 and click on it again.
So we
Click
want to
on it.
move more.
Repeat, no, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So more like 50 or
Yep.
100?
Try 50. Try 50.
Yeah,
Good.
that's it. Now click again. Yeah, there it
Okay,
goes.
this is,
There it goes. So
All right.
you
Now,
want
which do I want to change if I want a tighter circle?
you want to make the turn a bigger number.
The one
Fix
inside
it.
my repeat?
No.
No.
That one.
Now I'm wondering why my first two,
Ooh,
it doesn't turn the first time. It just, see what I'm saying? The
It-
rest of them are all turning, but these two don't. The second
I'll
one doesn't
tell you
turn.
what to do is go up to motion. It is turning. It's just not significant. And scroll down to where you see direction and click on direction. I mean, check mark. No, check the box.
Yep.
Okay. Now do this again. Reset running. And now click on. Do you see how it's changing? The direction is changing.
Uh-huh.
So if you want it to be even sharper, change 25 to a bigger number.
Oh, okay.
Or just finish this though. Finish clicking. Oops.
Oh, oops, sorry. See, it still looks to me like those first two are not really making a turn. Is it just looking that way to me? Or
You can swap your move and turn, and that will probably give you a bit of a difference.
okay, so it's just a matter of tweaking them a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll play. Oh,
Remember,
I'm gonna put this in a loop though.
you
So
can go back to what you were doing with just polygons,
yeah.
okay? And think about bringing the turtle back to where it started. How many degrees does it turn? 360.
Right.
And if you want it to do an even number, for example, you want it to turn 10 times to make a 360, then
Okay.
instead of 35, you want to put 36. Okay.
That was close.
And now, why don't you take out a
Oh.
repeat and wrap it around and put 10. Okay.
10.
Reset running. And now click on that. How's that?
Perfect. Just what I was after. Great. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Leslie, I'm going to tell you something. You didn't sign in. So
I
you
tried.
won't be able to save this. I'll show you how. Go to your file.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I think I had so many windows open.
Now I want you to export the blocks or
No, export project.
export project. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give
Okay.
it a name.
Give it a name.
It's a wreath.
Great.
So everybody else, this is how, if you forget to sign in and you want to save your project, this is how to do it.
Now log in.
Okay, so it's not like Scratch. I can't just log in while I'm doing a project because it's gonna.
No.
Oh, how mean. Okay. Did I
Log
do it?
in.
Yep. Okay. Okay. And now how do I bring this back in? I come here and I do
And
import.
import.
Here
Look
we
at
go.
download or wherever.
Ta-da! Thank you.
Now
You're-
save this.
Yeah, now save it so you don't forget. There you go.
Got
So
it.
if that ever happens to you, that's the procedure you can use.
Awesome. Thank you. Didn't even notice that. All right, get out my junk out of the
Well,
way.
thank you for not noticing, because I think it's good for all of us to see.
Indeed. All right, I'll stop sharing so someone else. I think I'll stop share. Stop share. Got it.
Okay then. Anybody got any other things to show? Or will we move on now? Yeah, it is useful to know what to do when you're not logged in, definitely.
I shared a design in the chat. It was something that was done with Lan Heng. That was our first Tea and Turtle Stitch session, and she did a really wonderful job. And it's a little like puff balls, and then I have seeds coming out, and it's got your design, the fan design.
Oh,
Very
wow.
pretty.
Like a
Oh, well,
dandelion.
her things are so elaborate.
Mhm.
They're beautiful and elaborate, and I can't do them.
Okay, shall I move on now? The last bit,
Yes.
tatami stitch, right? So we'll need to master the tatami stitch. Now, the tatami stitch does get confusing. So I think it's easier. I'm going to get rid of that program. I'm going to reset. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to explore tatami. I like tatami a lot because it's quite a structural, creates quite a structural block. So if I just use it and move 100, you'll see what it does. Now it's going to draw it along the path of the turtle. So if I zoom in a little bit, zoom to fit. So I've asked the turtle to move 100 steps, and it's moved 100 steps. And if you look down here under the pattern, you can see it's 2 centimeters that it's moved. Now, the width 100 is the width, it's either side of the turtle, it's drawing that path, the turtle path, and it's 2 centimeters wide. So that's what the width means. It creates a path of width 100. The interval is the mechanism by which it creates the path. So that's the stitches that go back and forward to make this path, to fill in that block. And center is whether it's centered around the pattern, the path of the turtle, or not centered around the path of the turtle. If I do this now, it's drawing it to the left, to the right, sorry, of the turtle. Okay, so this is tatami centered around the path of the turtle, and this is tatami drawn to the right of the turtle. And it's really easy to get very confused, especially if you're drawing wide paths. If I want to draw a narrower path, if I half that to 50, that is about 1 centimeter. And if I drop the stitches and do this now, you can see that I've half the width of the path. But because it's still off-centered, it's still to the right of the turtle because I've left it at that. If I wanted the turtle to be in the middle of that path, I would click that. Is that okay? Because it's pretty hard to explain. I find tatami the worst one to explain. So
I don't see how interval is
okay, right, let me clear this and let's go back to 100. So if I do it 100 and zoom in, let's see. So at the minute, it's difficult to see because it's stitches of unit 20. It's difficult to see the individual stitches because the turtle is moving pretty quickly.
Would you now run it at 40? So I can just, maybe that would help me.
Yep. Now, there is a
I don't see the difference.
There is a very subtle difference because the stitches are twice the length. So if you follow individual ones, they are slightly longer, but it is very hard to see that when it's zoomed out. But when you stitch it, it's much easier to see. Let me reset this. If we do it 40, if I now do it 60, you can see this, there's much fewer stitches in there. And if I were to do it 100, and zoom.
I see. Okay, now I see.
Yeah. So, but I'm now getting a different error message. It's saying 50 stitches are too long, will get clamped. And what this message is saying is I'm trailing a lot of thread back and forward across my pattern, and it could get caught up in the machine foot, or it could cause my fabric to pull and get crumpled fabric. So it's a slightly different error message, but it's just complaining about 2 centimeter stitches.
But that's the error message you get if you if you do a reset, don't choose an embroidery stitch and move 100 steps.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things I quite like doing with tatami is sort of creating these blocks. So if I get back to the standard tatami, and if we just look at what we can do with a centered stitch, and I'm going to move 100, and then I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to off-centered. So if I create that, you can see that my turtle hasn't changed the path, but for the first part, the tatami stitch was centered around the path of the turtle. And for the second block, the tatami stitch was stitched to the right of the turtle. And that's quite sweet. I quite like that pattern. So if I just keep clicking and zoom, I get quite a sweet pattern there. So it's something that if I wanted to do in real life, I could do that. Yeah. So that's just a simple example of how to use the tatami stitch. There's one other thing that I think is useful to show, and that's instead of using the tatami stitch itself, both times, I can use a running stitch. So if I put a running stitch in there and then move 100, you get quite a nice effect. In fact, I'm going to create this off-centered. So you can create patterns with blocks. And if I repeat that, so this is how I create a lot of my block-based patterns, is using this. And if I want to create another layer of blocks, what I can do is I can move back. Now I did that I moved, so I've got to move back minus 800 steps, I think, to get back to the start. Then if I do turn 90, I'm going to repeat this pattern again. And turn 90, move 100. Give me some what could turn 90, move 100, turn back the other way, 90, and then just instead of moving 100, if I move 50, oops, didn't turn. Okay, start again. I've created my line. I've gone back to the start of my line, turn 90 degrees upwards, moving 100, turn 90 degrees back because I'm going to get ready to draw another line, but I want my next line to be offset. So if I move 50 and repeat this again, I get quite a nice offset pattern. So that's, if I click these all together, if I put a repeat on there, I can then get this pattern to repeat multiple times. So if I do it 4 times maybe. So there you've got a sort of block pattern. So it's using a line and then setting up the line slightly differently. If I remove this little move 50, they would all stack on top of each other. So that's just an example of how you can use tatami stitch. And I do use tatami a lot. I think at this point, I'm going to just come back and let people try this because we've gone on, I've been too enthusiastic and gone on a little bit too long without giving you time to tinker away. But it's worth exploring the tatami stitch in more detail to just get the hang of it because the stitches are so dense, it goes back and forth and back and forth. And it's, when you stitch it, you will really see it, but until you stitch it, you won't see it quite so clearly on the screen. Have you got any questions? Everybody's very studious, Susan and Cynthia.
I have a question. What type of thread do you like to use?
Oh, that's an interesting one. It's gone out of my head at the minute. I'd have to go and look. It's the one that came with the machine. It's slightly more expensive, but we buy it because it just runs through the machine really easily. Give me a minute. I'll just, while you guys are working, I'll pop next door and look.
Good. Mm.
And I'm back. Isacord, that's what it's called.
Oh, we used to use Isacord, yeah.
I use it all the time. Yeah.
What's really sweet about Isacord is the little pop-down bases. It keeps all your threads. I don't know if you can see it, but it keeps it all neat and tidy, and then you just pop it together. So it's got a little click thing.
I didn't know that.
Aha. Cynthia, it's the best reason for buying it. So you just pop it down. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yes.
And then pop it back up again. For a while, our big embroidery machines were in a lab with 3D printers. So we had to get all sorts of tests on them because the bright colors are metallic and it could have interacted with other things in the lab. So we were glad to get out of the lab because it was just a pain to track down all the manufacturers' cards and instructions for them. But to be honest, I think it's broth thread that other people use. And I think it's a lot better to buy. It's a lot cheaper to buy. embroidery thread is much shinier than normal thread. It's actually, I think it's weaker than the normal thread, but it's much shinier.
Didn't know that.
Has anybody got anything they want to share? We've got any budding designers? Have you found it, Cynthia? Have you found
Yes,
it?
I did. My machine broke, but the threads are there.
Oh,
Yes, I just had it serviced, and they serviced it so well that it broke when I got it home in significant ways. By the way, Elaine and I are going to be in Washington, D.C. tomorrow
ooh.
for a Department of educational technology announcement on their new guide or plan. And they invited me to attend, and I invited Elaine to accompany me.
Thank you.
So,
It's lovely when you're able to have catch-ups in person. We've got a big educational show coming up this week in
oh,
London. So hoping to have a slight small European gathering at it.
oh, good.
Mhm. But we're not a formal part of it. We're a very informal part of it. Unlike you, Cynthia and Elaine.
Catherine, where are you going? Are you coming to this thing tomorrow? Oh, in London. You're going to the London thing. Oh, great.
Are you, Catherine? That's brilliant. We look forward to catching up. Can I stop sharing my screen? Is there anybody wanting anything? Is the code useful?
You could show them how what the size of this is. It's enormous. Scroll down a little. Can't see it. No, underneath the turbo mode, but scroll that area down. Ah, there it is. Oh, 19 by 10.
Mhm.
So 10 is safe, but 19.
Yeah. And that's the other thing with tatami stitches. Once you start doing things with tatami, the number of stitches rockets up. So when we're doing workshops with young people, we keep very quiet about tatami if we're just in a classroom going to be doing their designs, because it just takes forever on a small machine.
Yes.
So I'm going to move this. Sorry, it's helpful for me to see people are.
Yeah, so you can
Stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be nice to be able, ooh. How are you all doing?
Great.
Studious, telling you.
That isocord is very expensive.
That's
For an
why I
embroidery
use
set,
it.
it's $144.
What?
The isocord, if you had an embroidery set of 35 pieces, 35 colors, it's $144, while the sim thread is only $44.
The
So
what?
they're
What's
the sim thread, there's sim thread and their bro thread, they're about the same. They're a lot cheaper.
and they're 1,000 whatever.
It's $100 more.
No, the amount of thread.
The amount of thread. You get 35 pieces for
I
144.
want to know what each thread has on it.
Oh, what each thread has on it.
It's usually 1,000 meters, I think.
Yeah.
It's 1,000 something or others, and I don't know what.
It's I think it's certainly the isochord is meters. I think that tends to be the standard for a colored.
Is it meters? I don't
It's
know.
coming in inches, and so that doesn't help.
Okay. Okay, I take that back.
So I'm like, I don't know.
Well, anyway, it varies. Some of them are only 500, and that's why they're cheaper.
Okay.
But Madeira is slightly
Oh,
less.
nice, Catherine.
Oh, now we can play chess or checkers.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
What do the corners have to be for a chessboard or a checker, whatever that?
Margaret Minsky uses Madeira.
Yes.
Oh.
Madeira is slightly less than. Madeira has a nice selection of variegated.
Yeah. I think whichever your machine works with, it doesn't matter. But it's such a pain if you get a thread that starts to jam in it. It's such a pain to keep dealing with it. So if we have anything it jams.
Yeah, I had that problem yesterday. They were doing a lot of stitching. My young people, I teach teenagers, I have a program, and they were doing a lot of like small 10 satin stitch. And the place where we were at, I buy thread art. I buy my thread from Thread Art, and it works really well. It's a little bit more expensive, but the computer clubhouse where we were at, they bought the cheapest thing on Amazon. Like, they paid like $20 for 100 spools. Okay. And it was so frustrating for some of them that had smaller designs, because the thread would break so often, or it would get I don't know how to describe it, but it would get pushed up and
Right.
from little spirals.
Yep.
So
It would get threaded in a different way, scraped.
yeah.
I have a question that Cynthia kind of made me think of. Susan, you said you work in a lab with teenagers. I'm thinking about doing this with middle schoolers. What should I budget for repairs for a year?
Repairs for a sewing machine?
We're gonna have.
I've had mine for 3 years and I haven't repaired any of them.
That's good
Susan,
news.
wait a minute. Susan takes apart her machines.
I don't want to do
And
that.
she oils her machines.
Okay.
And so it's not fair to ask Susan that question without knowing that she does some mechanical adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I can fix things that go wrong. That's why I like the brothers. They're real simple. Well, for
Okay.
me.
But and if you do that on a regular basis, see, I didn't do anything to my machine for like 4 years. And
that sounds more like me. Yeah.
and so I finally had to take it to a professional who screwed up.
But it was like 2 or 3 years before you had to do that, right?
Okay.
But that's single use. That's not like me, where
Right.
I use it every day.
I'm the only one that uses it, and I don't use it 8 hours a day. Susan has teenagers.
Yeah, and I'm at a school, so I have
who are rough. I'm rough too.
I I would suggest whichever manufacturer your machine is, ring the local machine shop and ask how much a service is, because we've really benefited from from having a good relationship with the machine, the supplier of the machine. They'll tell you how much it'll cost to service it for a year, which I think is a good thing to do.
I never thought of
Although
that.
ours hasn't been serviced that regularly either. But if you're going to use it heavily, definitely plan for a yearly service and maybe ask them. The things that we tend to break are the needle threaders, and that's a bit of a pain to fix. So you ask them the cost of replacing the needle threader.
See, Susan doesn't believe in using that. She threads by
I can do it faster. I
She
can thread
threads
it
by
with-
hand, and her students are forced to thread by hand. And that's if you've got good eyes and a steady hand. My hands shake and my eyes aren't so good. So it's very hard to get the thread.
It's
I
true.
never thought of that. I mean, I bought my machine from Walmart or something, and I don't know whether they service things.
There'll be a manufacturer though that will service it. The only problem, the advantage of it being local to you is you can drop it off, because they're a pain if you have to put them in the post and things.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to have to mail them.
Mhm.
No.
Well, I don't even like having to lift them.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a good question. Any more of such wonderful questions?
Before we wrap up, we only have 4 minutes left. No question. I just got, Margaret wrote down about her bobbin thread. And I looked into her Sensa Green, and I've ordered some, but it hasn't come in yet. I tend to use pre-wound bobbins, but I have for my classes, because the kids hate to stop and wind the bobbin. But I'm going to try this because I became convinced after I looked at it. Looked at the Sensa Green. So it's
Oh, I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
Sense Green.
Yeah, they don't have pre-wound bobbins, but if you have enough bobbins, I have enough bobbins now that I could rewind, just spend an afternoon rewinding them and watching TV or something.
Oh, the Madeira isn't pre-wound?
They have a special bobbin thread called Sensa Green.
I said it's not pre-wound?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, no, I'm not interested.
The pre-wound bobbins are awesome for teaching, really awesome for teaching. Just be very, very sure. Like, I get the brother, you can buy a big box of them for cheap, but I buy the brother ones because sometimes if you have just a slight problem with the shape of the bobbin on the pre-wound bobbins, it can really mess up your machine.
Oh, Susan,
Ah,
would you consider showing us a tutorial in your oiling and maintenance plan? There you go. That's
okay.
Please invite me back for that one as well.
One thing to do is to have lots and lots of needles.
Mhm.
Okay, and don't fret if a needle breaks. The second thing is sometimes you're changing the machine out from a sewing machine to a digital embroidery machine. I give lessons on sewing as well as digital embroidery. there's two things to remember really well. When you're changing the needle, don't use a screwdriver to tighten the needle. It needs a little give. So just be finger tight. You know, try hard, tighten it hard, but you don't have to use the screwdriver. But when you're changing the presser foot, like from sewing to digital embroidery, you really need to tighten that as hard as you can. And I usually tighten it and then have another person come in and try to tighten it even more, because that will cause a lot of problems and needle breakage if that is not tight. Sometimes it gets loose, so every week or two, I make sure I tighten all of the screws. So those are two really easy maintenance things to do. But yes, I will do an oiling and taking apart, like if you get a tangled thread underneath, how to take it apart. I'll try and do a video tutorial on that this week.
Yeah, that happens frequently. I mean, more frequently than you'd like, that you have to unscrew everything and remove plates and dusting, Susan, with that air.
Oh yeah, dusting.
And recommending what kind of air blower.
So you buy that air stuff well, I have a little itsy bitsy brush that came with my brother that I used to brush underneath, but even more effective. Have you ever seen, you can get it at your regular drugstore, the air blaster for your keyboard, your computer keyboard. If you have a problem underneath, every once in a while, going in there and blasting the little dust bunnies out is a really good thing. Because sometimes you can't get them with the brush, or you can't reach them, but you can blow them out. And it's really fun. Okay. There is Margaret, you can buy a bobbin winder. I had one at the tech center when I worked with Mel there. And they are better than the ones on the machines. Oh my goodness, look at that. I saw you scrunching your face, Elin, but look at that. Can you share it? And that'll be our final thing. You really got into this. I was like, should I ask Elin or not?
Share my screen?
Yeah, share your screen. Yeah. You were making such faces while you were doing it. Go ahead. Oh, that's beautiful.
Let me make sure I have.
That is lovely. I love it.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, so it again explored with I'm not sure which one. I have the notes printed out, but then I just started doing turns, and then wanted to see if I could make a four-sided. So I like the shape of the tatami. I actually turn the tatami stitches, and then I turn that design 4 times.
And that will print on your machine.
Yeah.
It's 8x8. Excellent. I want to see it.
I'll try this week. So thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Just run it now, please.
Oh, reset and run?
Yes, please.
Sure. Let me see.
Nice.
One of the things about tatami is it's very deceiving when you see it on the screen, because the number of stitches just confuses your eyes. But when you stitch it, it is so much easier to see what's happening. So it's one to definitely stitch. And that's beautiful, Ellen. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Well, I don't know about everybody else, and I hope you'll chime in, but I learned a lot today from you, Margaret. You can always learn from other fellow turtle stitchers, and I'm really grateful for the tatami stitch tutorial that you did, because I never really understood it or understood the potential of it to do interesting things. So thank you.
But before we end, I'd just like to announce we have another guest person for next
Oh,
week.
yes.
And that's Andrea Meyer is going to join us and show us how to Andrea is the mother of TurtleStitch. She is the originator of TurtleStitch, and she does join us periodically, but she's going to speak next week about how to mount an image and in your background and trace it. And Elaine could have, if she were prepared, show us one or two things that she did with that environment. Elaine helped debug, and I think Margaret Lowe also helped debug that environment. There. Ooh, you did that?
No, these are some, I have like,
No. Oh,
I have like 50 different ones. These are
I don't want to
line
see
drawings.
what?
These are line drawings. Let's see if I can find.
I
My
don't
young
want.
people like microphones.
No,
So
I asked Elaine, not Susan.
oh, okay. I'll get out. I was going to show some examples of things they
But
could
those
do.
aren't examples. Elaine is going to.
Okay.
These are things that I've traced.
It's very hard to see, but the Picasso line drawing, that's an example of. Hey, show that one again. The figure.
This is the Picasso.
Oh,
This is-
well, the other one was just as, but I think doing that kind of taking an image and tracing it will be kind of fun.
Mhm.
And creating a program that can store. We haven't done anything with lists.
a nice one.
Well, we don't have to know it there. Yes.
Yeah.
It's sort of, for me, it's so anti-turtle geometry, but nonetheless, it will be fun to try. I like the idea of having a background image and tracing it as my hand shakes. So
There's a
that's next.
one. That's what a Margaret Lowe.
Now,
one that
this is my favorite. Yes, this is definitely a Margaret Lowe influence, strong influence.
Yeah.
And I just love having curved corners.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me, and I'm tempted to come back next week to hear Andrea's session.
Good. Good.
I'll put you on the list for next week.
Brilliant.
Oh, let's see. Wait,
that was
I
enough
have to pin you. I have to
for
pin
the-
you. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, is that the one you just did?
No, but this is the one with their fans at the end. But it's in
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Those
configuration.
are fans at the end.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now I see. Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah,
I have a whole stack of things.
all right. Well, does anybody else want to say anything to Margaret before we sign off?
Just thank you very much. Lots to learn today.
Thank you. I learned a whole lot. Can't wait to tinker with it all this week.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Margaret. It was wonderful. And
And
I'll to sign up for your workshop.
oh yeah, I've got a teacher training workshop on the 31st, I think. But it's on the website. If people visit our website, you'll see it. But it says teacher CPD, but anybody's welcome.
Yeah, I've taken one of them. They're wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
I like to sign up for people's beginner turtle stitch things, because it gives me more strategies for teaching. everybody has their own beginner strategies, but thank you
Absolutely.
so much. And we'll
Okay.